As the world is grappling with a number of challenges, President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to co-chair the 8th SA-EU Summit in Cape Town. The President will be joined by European Commission President Dr. Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio da Costa. SABC News international reporter Khayelihle Khumalo is in Cape Town and joins us now live. Good afternoon, Khayelihle. I see you in Cape Town. The weather looks so much more pleasant than it was the other day when the team was there. But do tell us about this meeting and what is on the agenda.
Well, certainly, dear, an absolutely important meeting for South Africa and European Union. As you know, that South Africa is one of the 10 countries in the world that enjoys this particular relationship. But joining us now is South Africa's International Relations and Cooperation Minister, I Lamola. So a very important day, Minister, for South Africa. Let's look at the significance of this, especially in the context of the geopolitical instability, among other challenges.
Indeed, it's a very significant day for South Africa and the European Union, particularly that we have a strategic partnership to look into various issues of trade and also issues of geopolitics, as you are aware, that are shifting, and how can we continue to re-emphasize the role of multilateralism to ensure justice in the world and also to ensure equity and solidarity amongst all nations, but also to continue on issues of trade, continue to ensure to engage on issues of in our country, beneficiation, issues of carbon emissions. So it is a very important strategic platform.
Minister, obviously this comes as South Africa with the US not really seeing eye to eye on certain aspects when it comes to land reform and among other issues. Are you hoping to deepen your cooperation with one of your key partners in terms of new areas of cooperation, in terms of new markets?
Indeed, we will deepen that cooperation. You will remember that the foundation was laid when Ms. Kaslas was here earlier on, when we had a ministerial engagement. And an intention was clearly put that South Africa and Europe and the European Union needs to deepen its cooperation on trade, on geopolitics, and on various issues of the globe. But at all that is to continue to emphasize the mutual beneficial relationship of the two important institutions.
And obviously, for example, the European Commission President von der Leyen saying that South Africa is Europe's unique partner, and obviously from 2007 all this way, but also, Minister, looking at the decarbonization of South Africa's economy. So with the current developments in Washington, D.C., how is that going to unfold in terms of making sure that you bridge those gaps?
Yeah, obviously the decarbonization matter needs to look into and take into account our level of development. We are not at the level of some of the most developed countries, so it needs to take that into account. Those are some of the issues that will be engaged as we engage in the process. And with Washington, we continue to say the doors of South Africa to engage with Washington remains open. It is Washington that has a problem with the South Africa's domestic policies that are enshrined in our constitution, which are a constitutional imperative. The transformation, it's a constitutional imperative. We are mandated by the constitution, and it's a rule of law. And we're glad that the European Union does understand the history where we come from as South Africa, and that this history has to be taken into account as we develop and as we move forward.
Minister, obviously one of the topical issues, the current situation in Ukraine, where we've seen quite a number of European leaders rallying behind President Zelensky, and he's coming over to South Africa next month. I would imagine this would be one of the issues to be discussed, especially in light of those developments in Saudi Arabia, where we saw the proposed 30-day ceasefire.
Yes, the South Africa's non-aligned position has continued to play a very key role in us being part of the engagements with the issue of peace in Ukraine and calling for all parties to be involved on the table. You will remember that even when Russia was excluded, South Africa insisted that Russia must be put on the table. So we are a nation that wants a dialogue, that wants peaceful existence amongst nations, that wants to resolve disputes peacefully. And that is the discussion that will continue, and not only about Ukraine, including conflicts in the continent, South Sudan is raging conflict now that is escalating. We continue to call for peace there in Sudan itself, in the eastern DRC. So South Africa continues to call for peace in all parts of the world, including in our own continent.
And a very busy day, Minister. Obviously, a virtual meeting by the SADC leaders chaired by the SADC chairperson, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa, and also a reaffirmation of those commitments from the joint summit between SADC and the East African community around the non-state parties to have an inclusive dialogue with the state parties. Maybe just share with us, just briefly, Minister, some of the key outcomes or some of the areas of concern, as we know that some SNDF members are still in Goma and Sake in the DRC.
Indeed, as you are aware, the summit has just concluded now, virtually. That's why I'm late, because I was still in the summit. Indeed, the summit has taken groundbreaking resolutions with regards to humanitarian access, the reopening of the Goma airport, engaging with the non-state actors and state actors, including a phased withdrawal of summit DRC. But not only that, all the forces that are not invited, non-invited parties in that conflict must also withdraw and also be engaged in a process of ceasefire. So the sovereignty of the Democratic Republic of Congo should continue to be respected, and SADC will continue to advocate for that, and including humanitarian access, and also for a peaceful dialogue and engagements with all parties, and with an emphasis that everyone who is not supposed to be in the space, state and non-state actors, must not be in the DRC. They must withdraw, and that is the discussion that the communique will communicate.
Minister, just a final question. The trade war, obviously there's jittery. You know, the markets are reacting not so nicely to these developments. For South Africa, for EU, already we've seen retaliatory steps from EU and Canada. I would imagine that as partners with EU, you will look into this matter. How do you navigate these very uncharted territories where you have all these experiences as you seek to revitalize your economies?
Yeah, indeed, we will definitely look into all those issues with the European Union, and how ourselves as South Africa can continue to participate in multilateral trade platforms in the EU and in many other parts of the world, to look into them for markets of our products, which is very important. And that's why you will see from the delegation, we have got a number of ministers that will be participating to ensure that we have these trade agreements that will continue to enable our economy to beneficiate, but also to trade with some of the products that we want to take to the European Union member countries.
All right, Minister, thank you so much indeed, and thanks for agreeing to talk to us. So, Diabo, from the very windy Cape Town, of course, Minister I Lamola really talking about an array of issues, and we know that in the main, this is South Africa's key trading partner. When you look at the foreign direct investment, the contribution from the side of EU is quite substantial. So around 2 p.m., we're expecting the arrival of the dignitaries right here at Den Haag, here in Cape Town. So with that, back to you in studio.
All right, thank you so much, Khayelihle Khumalo. Khayelihle Khumalo is out in Cape Town.